Buonasera, ciao a tutti, benvenuti per questa diretta. Oh, I'm sorry. Hello everyone, good evening. Welcome to this English live on Bridges of Light International. I've just finished to speak to somebody in Italian, that's why. Anyway, welcome everyone. Welcome to this live on Bridges of Light International. We're gonna wait a few more moments. Hello Valeria, welcome, good evening. We're gonna wait a few more moments before we start talking about surrender. We're gonna be talking about the power of surrendering. And thank you that you're here with us for this hour. Welcome you too, Valeria, thank you. And welcome, thank you that you're watching this anytime after the live has happened. Thank you, Bridges of Light, and thank you, Life. While we wait for people to connect, hello, Mariella, good afternoon. It is in English, yes it is. Hello, Anna, yes it is in English. Yes, while we wait for people to connect, can you write what is surrender to you? What does the word surrender or surrendering brings in your mind? Hello, Sylvia. So what is surrender to you? What does it mean to surrender to you? And surrender to what? We're going to be talking about what is surrender, what to surrender means, and surrendering to what, and why and when we would do that. Is this something that's ever useful? And if so, when? Or is it useless? What are your thoughts about it? You know, if we look in the dictionary, if you put surrender, this is what comes up. To yield to the possession of power of another. To give oneself up. Or to give oneself or something up to some influence or to somebody, to some cause or some emotion, to what it could be. Basically is to give something up or to give ourselves up to something else. You see, in life, normally, we are educated to believe that we have to make things happen. We have to work. We have to push. We have to pull. We have to do something. We have to create something. And that's beautiful. If we know what we want to create, if we know what we want to achieve, let's do it. You put your mind to it and you do what you want. And of course, if there's something that it's in the way between us and reaching what we intend to achieve, of course, sometimes we fight, so to speak. We stand our ground and we don't surrender. Right? We try to overcome the obstacle. We try to, sometimes it even means to overcome a person, if it's a person that, hello Matilda, that it's standing between us and what we want to achieve. But there are times when surrendering, it's probably the most useful option we have. And by surrendering in a life context, I mean to stop pushing, pulling, resisting anything. It literally means to be present and to acknowledge what is, to acknowledge life, to acknowledge what is going on outside from ourselves, and even probably more important, acknowledging and surrendering with what we are feeling inside. Because ultimately, regardless to what is happening outside of ourselves, what is important to us, what is determining our emotional reaction towards what happens outside of us, it's all happening inside. So to surrender, meaning to say yes, a truthful yes with presence to how we're feeling inside about whatever is happening outside, it's not useful at times. It's actually fundamental at any given moment in time for us to understand and realize where we are at any given moment in life, how we're feeling about something. I'll give you an example. If for whatever reason, but let's do it right now, let's make it experientially. If whatever is going on in your life right now, I don't know what's going on in your life, of course, but whatever emotions you are feeling right here, right now, acknowledge it. And if you are feeling, if you are thinking or feeling that you shouldn't be feeling the way you're feeling, let's say you're frustrated about something, let's say you're angry about something, let's say you're sad or whatever you're feeling, of course, if this is a positive emotion, you're probably accepting it and enjoying it. But if you are not in a positive feeling and emotional state, do not resist it. You see, surrender to it. This is the first surrender that I invite you to do, which is let's surrender, meaning let's give in, literally. Let's be at the mercy, literally, yes, to this something that a moment ago we were resisting, to something that we were considering to be the enemy. The word surrender, in fact, comes from perceiving some kind of conflict, because we surrender to what? We surrender to an enemy. We surrender to something that is in opposition to us. My invitation is, from now on, that you don't even need to, well, you can always surrender. Why? Because ultimately, I know things may appear to be different, but ultimately, everything that we may perceive as being against us, that we may perceive as being an enemy, it is not. So, but let's one step at a time. So let's start within ourselves. If whenever we feel that we shouldn't, whenever we say and we feel I shouldn't be feeling like this, I invite you to, instead of telling yourself that, surrender to it. Meaning say, yes, I am feeling, acknowledge the fact that I am feeling pissed off. I am feeling angry. I am feeling frustrated. I am feeling sad. Right, there's a lot of power in this surrendering, because it's as if we are opening the door to this, what we consider to be the enemy that we weren't surrendering to. We open the door for this entity, this emotion, this attitude, whatever it is, to come and to do its course, to manifest in our inner reality. And that's it. And then it will leave us. I can assure you, nothing in the universe stays still. Everything is cyclical. Everything, you see the infinite symbol. Have you ever seen it? You know, it's like the 8. the horizontal 8, ebb and flow. This is the nature of life. This is why surrendering is so fundamental, because as much as all of us would like to always feel at our best, we would always like things to go the way we want to, it's impossible. It's after the day comes night. After winter comes spring, unless you live at the equator, of course. But I'm talking emotionally, we are cyclical. So to surrender to everything that appears in ourselves, even if at that moment in time we don't like it, it paradoxically, when we say yes and we surrender to it, it leaves us faster than if we were not surrendering. If we take a stand, a position, and say, no, I don't want to feel this anger, I don't want to feel this sadness, we give it power, we give it strength. If we surrender to it, it comes and goes. It comes through us. We might get angry, we might shout at somebody, say, what the blooming whatever. Do you see what I mean? You might feel like throwing a pillow against the wall. But that's it, but then it's gone. But you don't even need to do that. If you really are present to an emotion, you just let it go. You surrender to it and it goes. But let me write now. I've been speaking enough. I see some comments, which I love. So now it becomes a real life. Mariella says, don't be enough strong, courageous, submitted to people at work, in each social or personal relationship. That's your meaning of surrender. Don't be enough strong. Don't be strong enough. Yes. Courageous. When we are not courageous, when you submit. Yes. When we submit to people at work, in each social or personal relationship. Yes. Yes, Mariella, that is surrendering. Exactly. And now the surrendering that I invite all of us to consider, and then we'll come to the surrendering to outside situations or to people outside from ourselves. Although I like us to start from home, considering what's happening in ourselves. And I'll tell you why. Because unless and until we learn how to surrender, and by surrendering, I literally mean, you could substitute the word surrendering in this context to the word accepting, recognizing, accepting and seeing something for what is. If you see something for what is, without thinking there's any kind of conflict or enemy inside or outside, you can only surrender. Because the ultimate surrendering is surrendering to what is, to reality, to life. So if we learn and put into practice the surrendering in our home, in our psychic and emotional and spiritual home, meaning within ourselves, but we are a universe in ourselves. Let's not forget, we are a drop in the ocean. We are a localization of, let's say, what we call God, what we call life, what we call divinity. So if we manage to, and this is why it's easier said than done, but it's very simple to really put into practice this kind of concept, because we only have to put them into practice in our own being, in ourselves, and then everything else will transform itself. And that's the magic, because what we see outside, if we see conflict outside, if we see people, let's say they want to keep us hostage, or they act as perpetrators towards us, they are no more, no less than the outpicturing, the representation, the manifestation, the reflection of our inner conflict, of our inner battle. Okay? So, all we have to do is to take care of our inner battle, our inner conflict. If we are able to do that, and the power of surrendering lies exactly in understanding that when I truly look at something, let's say an inner conflict that I have, an emotion that I would like not to feel but is there, when I surrender to it, the conflict disappears. Why? Because for a conflict to be there, there has to be two parts that they exercise a force against each other. Now, if I surrender, if one of the two parts doesn't apply force and resist the other part, there we go. There's no conflict. There's only something that appears into space. Let's say anger, sadness, whatever it is, and we say yes to it. And we say, okay, come, I invite you, come. Do you know what I mean? You see, the person that we call, let's say, master, the master is somebody that say, you know what he says to life, the master is not somebody that say, oh, I want to live on a cloud, I want to live on Mount Everest and dingy manifest, and meditate all the time. No, the master is the one that say, challenges, problems, what you call challenges, what you call problems, bring them on. And it grows and it grows and it grows. But why does it grow or she grows? Because there's no resistance in her or his life of a master. That's only a welcoming. Okay, this comes, okay, that's fine. Come in, okay? This is something that I like, I enjoy. This is something I don't like. It's okay, I'm not enjoying it. Although, if I'm not resisting it, if I surrender to it, it does its course and it goes. Yes, I'm feeling anxious now for whatever reason. Let it go through. Yes, I'm feeling fearful. Okay. Yes, I'm feeling panicky or joyful. Do I make any sense? And I tell you why it's important. Therapeutically, when working with people, the more people are obsessed by their anxiety or their panic or they're worried, the more because they don't surrender to it, because they fight it, the more the panic gets bigger, the more the frustration gets bigger, the more the depression gets bigger. So if we surrender to it, and I see it all the time, what we call panic, what we call fear, what we call anger, they are friends. They want to be there. They have a reason to be there. Something happened and I got angry. Yes, it was my story. It was my negative reaction to it, but it already happened. So I can't erase what happened. So it's important and it's out of integrity to tell myself, yes, I am pissed off. Now I'm angry. Yes, because I judged what happened negatively. Do you see what I mean? So I surrender to it. I say yes. I take responsibility of saying, yes, I know that judging is useful. I know that I could be accepting of everything. But in this instance, it has already happened. That's what the magic, because you can't go back. Yes, I wasn't able to. So I say yes to it and I surrender to it. That is where growth and integrity and mastery comes in, because I say yes to it. Okay, I enjoy the ride, so to speak. Meaning I enjoy the emotion. I let it go through me. And then, like always, when I'm in a peaceful state, then I can intellectualize a thing and whatever and say, of course, there's no reason in surrendering anymore. That's when surrendering is not even necessary anymore. But when something arises and disturbs my calm, my state of balance, if you want to grow, surrendering is the only way. That's the power in it. I hope I made any sense. If not, write to me. Say, Luca, I didn't really understand what you said. Now, let me see what other people wrote. Chiara says, oh, see you later, Chiara. And Sylvia is writing. Sylvia says, I agree with you. To surrender and accept gives a total serenity. Exactly. Everything is as it is. Yes, I totally agree, Sylvia. That's exactly the point I wanted to make. And also because I want to stress this again, and especially here in this group, because here the level of awareness, it's quite high, I would say generally. But the other side of the coin of being quote unquote spiritual and knowing all that we know about who we truly are, meaning we are a soul incarnated, having a human experience, and we know that all is love and we are all one. So what happens that sometimes we do not surrender to when we trip over things, meaning normally everything is good. We are able to live at a peaceful, nice, loving sort of level. But then something happens and we get triggered. Oh, we are human beings, guys. So what happens that our stability gets thrown by, we get angry, we get upset, we get whatever, and we tell ourselves, ooh, I know better. I shouldn't be feeling like this. Okay, so we beat ourselves up. So what we do, we resist and we don't surrender to the anger. We don't surrender to the frustration. You get my point? Now, if we could just surrender, if we were forgetting about the fact that we think we should know more than what we do and all stories, because it's all down to our stories. That's why how we complicate our life very well. If we surrender to it, you know, things just happen. And it doesn't matter then we go back to not knowing what we knew. No. That's one more experience. And I learned from the experience, you know. I can only learn, truly learn and interiorate when I made a mistake. And the biggest the mistake, okay, the biggest the fuck up, but the more I'm able to surrender to the fact that, yes, I fucked up big time, instead of telling me I shouldn't have done, I should have, no, just surrender to it, acknowledge it. Yes, then it's when I truly learn. Of course, nothing is certain, because maybe you go, maybe yes, it will happen again, but maybe not. But there's more chances that we learn from our mistakes when we surrender to them. Because then what happens? This is when we really transcend judgment to the ultimate point. When then life is just a continuous event, it's a moment by moment experience. And each moment I surrender to what is, meaning, yes, today I'm feeling low. Great. I can assure you, if you surrender to that, you feel less low than if you say, no, I shouldn't. I must feel good. I must feel good. Nothing wrong with wanting to feel good. But it's strenuous. It's tiring, isn't it? So the more we are aware of being connected to a higher intelligence, the more we can allow ourselves to relax and surrender and enjoy the ride. But let me read something else. Mariella says, in its positive meaning, I can surrender to God, to universal love, to my spiritual guide. Yeah, totally, Mariella. Yes. And that is the ultimate. That is when, okay, there's different, I'll tell you what, metaphysically speaking, there's 4 stages of consciousness. Okay. And by the way, we all, well, it depends. Some of us, some people, they've never been like to the 3rd, maybe, or 4th stage. But even somebody that has experienced all 4 stages of consciousness, it fluctuates. She or he fluctuates even during a day or, you know, during life. Sometimes if we are tired or if something has happened, we go down maybe to level 1, 2, 3, 4. But anyway, the first level of consciousness is when we feel that we are victims. We are victims of life. We are victims of circumstances. And we don't know and acknowledge the power we have. Still now, there are still people on the planet that they really feel they're victims. They don't really know that they have power towards the life they're living. So the second stage of consciousness is when the person realizes that she or he has some kind of power, and that he or she, his or her thoughts and emotions, they can affect, they can attract or resonate with something. That's when acknowledging and experiencing the law of attraction becomes obvious. Then there's the third level, and that's when we acknowledge that we are part of something bigger. That's when we have a goal, and normally, and when we know that we are aware that we are a spiritual being having a physical experience, and whatever we do, it's motivated by the highest good for everyone involved. Then there's the fourth stage, and that's, I would say, that's where what you, Mariella, talked about. You're right, it's in its positive meaning, yes, it's when we surrender to God, to universal love, to the spiritual guide. So in this fourth stage, this is when the ego is really being put in the backside. Basically, it's not driving the show anymore. It's when the person says, okay, I'm yours, use me, okay? And the person becomes a vessel, so to speak, for universal intelligence, for the God force, for the Christ consciousness. You can use the word you want. Do I make sense? It's when, yeah, when we are literally being used by a higher intelligence, when we don't almost have a will of our own, when I'm not thinking, oh, what does Luca want? It's about what does life want? What do you want me? What do you want me to be? Yes, and that is the ultimate spiritual surrender. Yes. Yeah. The surrender I was talking about before is the surrender that I think is very powerful for everybody, regardless to where somebody is on their journey. To be able to surrender, meaning to recognize and accept whatever we're feeling, whatever we are at any given moment. What that does, it speeds up our evolutionary process. It speeds up the process, because we are all on a journey, that we like it or not, or that we are aware of it or not. In other words, we are all driven biologically, spiritually, emotionally, physically, towards being more and more who we truly are. But that means experiencing more joy, more inner peace, more contentment. So life will present us with circumstances, and it is up to us to be able, and with surrender, we accelerate the process. It's up to us to be able to experience more joy and to become more accepting, more tolerant to ourselves, or for life and everything else. So surrendering is the shortcut. It's when you go, okay, let me just see what it is. Let me acknowledge. And once I do that, I move on. Hello, Clemente. Hello, Marina. Silvia then says, okay, Silvia says, before I was exposed to your thinking, my thinking, she said, I've always thought that that before something that you can't do anything about, something that you don't like, the best solution was like to leave. One second, I have to read everything because she's wrote in Italian, and then I have to translate. Ah, okay. Yes. Before I heard your way of thinking, I've always thought that before something that is happening, the best solution would be to stop rowing with the boat and let yourself go, and let the current take you without resisting it. And even if at the edges of the river there was a waterfall, yes, you would fall down prepared and so free that you would land in the best possible way. Did I give the idea? And she says, yes, yes. Hello, Deborah. Hello, Adriana. Ciao, Walter. Hey, hello, Lorenzo. How are you? So, have you ever been in a situation when there was a challenge or something that you regarded to be a problem, and you did everything in your capability to resolve the situation, to do something about it, and you were feeling frustrated, you were feeling angry, and everything shifted, or maybe the situation itself didn't actually change, but your reaction to it changed when you let go. When you told yourself, okay, there is nothing else I can do, I surrender. Has it ever happened to you? And if so, don't just say, yes, it did. I'm looking for an example that we can share. Because I like to use your guys' experience. I like it more. I think it makes it more live. If nobody writes, because I give you my one example I have, but a huge example I have. You know, the reason why I turned my life around, I did literally 180 degrees in 2002. It's when I surrender. It's because I surrendered. And how did I do it? I acknowledged and I surrendered to the fact that I had a problem, that my life was not the one I wanted. I was damaging myself. I was taking too many drugs. I was drinking too much. But also, it wasn't just because the drugs and the drinks, they were symptoms. They weren't the real problems. The real problem was my attitude towards life, well, towards myself, towards life, towards others, was my negativity. But if you ask me, before I turned my life around, I would have not admitted it because I wasn't aware of it. In other words, I would have told you that I loved my life, that I loved myself. I couldn't see my negative attitude towards myself, others, and life. I could only change everything when I surrendered. Meaning when I said, okay, yes, I am powerless over the way I feel. Yes, I am negative. Yes, I am not feeling good about myself. I'm not feeling good about life. Think about people, if there's people in your life that you know, or you may have been one of them, when for you or for others, it's easy to see that he or she is not happy. He or she is angry, or he or she is maybe has got depressive tendencies, full of rage, frustrated, always anxious, and so on and so forth. And maybe he or she is almost not aware of it. What I mean is that they are complaining, they're not happy, but if you ask them, looking them in their eyes, they say, but do you realize how negative you are? Do you realize that you are creating your life the way it is? They are not aware of it, are they? Most of the people, they're not. I was one of them. Why? Because they are not surrendering. They are fighters. These people are fighters. But fighting what? Fighting what? Fighting life. But you know why they're fighting life? Because they have surrendered. Like I had surrendered already before I turned my life around. But what did I surrender about? What is everybody that's surrendering? They've already surrendered about, but that's the negative surrendering. They have surrendered themselves to the negative conditioning. They have surrendered themselves, and that is the real enemy. That is the only enemy, the negative conditioning. They have surrendered to society. They have surrendered to negativity. They have surrendered to a negative system. Let's call it, which it is, human consciousness, race consciousness, which is the consciousness that believes that we are separate, that believes in duality, that believes in conflict. And they have surrendered to it because of blind love. Because their parents, that's what they taught them. Because that's what they were taught. Because their parents are the parents that were taught. Do I make any sense? By the way, I don't know if nobody's writing anything, and because you're not writing anything, or because I'm not getting the comments. I asked because I don't like, after a while that I talk and nobody writes anything, I can't connect with anything. So it doesn't seem like I'm even, nobody's writing anything. Okay, so I'll keep talking. What I feel this is leading us. So, yes, in one way or another, we are all already, hello Antonio, we are all already surrendering to something. But depends, the good question is, what have we surrendered to? Like Mariella, she wrote, surrender, a good surrender, yes, it's surrendering to God. It's surrendering to a higher intelligence. But if we can't surrender to it, maybe, and if we don't live peacefully, it could be because we have already surrendered to something. And we are actually victims of it, which is the conditioning. It is negativity. It is the beliefs in good people, in bad people, in poverty, in lack, in limitations, in scarcity, in all this limiting belief. Ah, thank you, Mariella. She's writing something. Thank you. Let me write. Mariella says, my personal thought is this. It's absolutely better surrendering into forgiveness to live in peace, serenity, instead of living a negative, frustrating, and anxiously. I don't think to be a person without personality. I really think to be the strongest one. I can see what you mean, I think. Yes, you, oh, listen, if you, life of, yes, if you, the surrender you mean actually, yes, it does make you stronger. But to surrender in the way you describe, Mariella, you have to be very strong as an individual. Because if you're not strong, you couldn't surrender to, you couldn't surrender into forgiveness. You couldn't live in peace, serenity. It's not easy to forgive. It's not easy to live peacefully, to live in a state of serenity, especially in the world we are living. So it takes a lot of stamina. It's work. That's why I always say that it's easier said than done. To create, I mean, happiness and serenity and inner joy, they are choices. But we have to make those choices. We were born like that. Yes, but look in the society we live. As adults, unless we work on ourselves, and if we simply follow the human trend, I don't know if we would be very happy, because we would be surrendering to the atmosphere. And how is the atmosphere? Let's put the TV on. Let's put the news on. Oh my gosh, it's all about negativity. Tragedy, 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 tragedy. You can feel it. People are very fearful. People are very scared. So yes, Mariella, you are strong to do what you do, because it's not easy to surrender to something which is not globally manifested yet. We are a minority. We are a minority of people still. Aware, but also we're not just aware. I'd like to think that we are actually putting into practice the real spiritual principle. Meaning we don't just say to ourselves, oh, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. We actually work towards it. But there's not many people that are actually embarking this work. And you need strength to do it. It doesn't just happen. Yes. I'd just like to make a distinction though, because you mentioned, I don't think to be a person without personality. Yeah, of course you have personality, yes. But let me make a distinction. A personality is inherent to the way we appear to the world, to let's say the ego. It's the mask. Persona means mask, means actor, right? But I think if to have to surrender in the way you talk about surrendering, and the ability to forgive and to live peacefully and so on and so forth, I think there are more quality inherent, not so much to the personality, but to the individualization of yourself, to your essence, okay? Because there's a big difference between personalities and individuals. Personalities are made from society, from culture. A personality is the one that is easily manipulated. A personality is the one that follows the trend, meaning today fashion says that you should wear green, black and brown. So, your persona wants to be liked by others, so you buy everything which is green, black and brown until it's in fashion. When it's out of fashion, because you are a personality, you change your opinion, okay? But these are the personas. The personality is what governments, politics, and economics likes, because they're easily manipulated. They're puppets, personas. But then we have the one that the system, the cultural, economical, and political systems don't like. They're the individuals. And the individuals are, of course, they are also personas, because everybody has a role in society and has got an ego and so on and so forth. But who is driving the show is the individual, meaning is that something that can think autonomously? Is that something that says, oh, I like this, regardless of the fact that society is telling me that I should like it because it's cool, or I shouldn't like it. I like it because I personally like it, not because I should. So an individual based his or her decision not on prejudices or judgment. It doesn't think, is it right or wrong? Is it good or bad? No, an individual thinks, do I like this? Yes or not? How do I feel about this? And then makes his or her decision. And doing this, you become more authentic. You become more of who you truly are. And this is actually the simplest and most effective ways of becoming who you truly are. And what do we do to do that? Even when we are adults, we surrender. We start by surrendering. How am I feeling about anything right here, right now? How am I feeling? Surrender to that. I'm feeling like this. Okay. Why am I feeling like this? And then it's like I'm peeling an onion. When you get to the core of it, you realize, well, hopefully, you may realize what you truly like, what you as an individual want, Was I clear? I just wanted to make this slight difference between individual and personality, because the personality is very much driven by others' opinion. The personality is afraid of standing out to the crowd, because the personality only lives because people say you are cool. If other people say you are not good, the personality feels like dying. That doesn't exist. It has to be validated. Do it make sense? An individual, no. For individual, of course, he or she might like to be in other people's company. Maybe it would prefer to be with other people, but it's so centered in his or her truth that it doesn't compromise what it feels because of other people's opinion. So it's a more challenging life in a way, although the reward, they're much greater. It's much more rewarding to live as an individual. So anyway, so Mariella, I think what the characteristic you express, I think they're more inherent to an individual than to only a personality. Mariella says, I am strong enough, Luca. This is my life in practice. Wonderful. Yes. I like that. Yes, I can feel the strength in your word. I can feel your certainty on what you say. And I have a question for you. Have you found surrendering useful in becoming strong, Mariella? But this is also a question for everybody else. Give me an example, because now we talk, I think I explained more or less what I mean by surrender. And also, if you are watching this and you weren't here live, write in the comments when and if, of course, you have found surrendering useful in your life. One of the biggest byproduct, I would say, or reward or demonstration, let's say, yes, of the power of surrendering, to me, is the realization, the awareness of the perfection of life in any circumstance about anything and everything. One of the reasons, I think, of course, only my opinion, that one of the reasons why we may find challenging to surrender or we don't surrender is because we believe and we are attached in our concept of perfection. Meaning we think that things should be a particular way, and this way is how we have imagined it, is how we think things should be. For example, I should always feel happy, I should always feel peaceful, or he or she should always be feeling or behaving like this should never be happen, and so on and so forth. And because we have so many expectations about ourselves, others, and life, when our expectations are not met, we resist it. We think, no, things should be different. So we don't allow ourselves to see the perfection of life. But when we do that, when we resist what is, we are giving more energy. We are creating more of what we don't want. When we surrender, when we realize that this is futile, to push against something, it doesn't help, and we surrender, it goes. But then there's no energy that gives it power, so to speak, because when I give energy to this, because I want to stop it, it has to gain more energy as well. It has to become stronger. And that creates something else that wants to push it behind. But if I let it go, it just goes, it falls flat. And chances are that I'm not creating more of what is that I didn't want. Life is a struggle. Only and when we believe it's a struggle, when we believe it's a fight, when we believe that is something opposing us. If we don't believe that, if we are aware of the perfection of it, of the fact that, hey, this is what is manifesting in my reality today, and okay, I say yes to it. I surrender to it, I welcome it. And that doesn't mean that I don't act, that I don't do and honor what I like doing or what I don't like doing. But it's the energy of my acting out, the energy of my doing something or not doing something comes from me. It's authentic. It comes, I'm the generator of it. It's not because of something or somebody else. Because if my acting or not acting is because of something or somebody else, I'm a slave. Can you see the difference? I'm a slave. I am conditioned. I am I'm trapped by it. So not to be trapped by anything, not to be conditioned or slave to anything, even though it seems paradoxical, but the shortest way is to surrender to it, to let it be. And then from a state of peace, I can act. I can say, okay, I do this, or no, I won't do that. But the energy is not an energy of reaction. The energy is the energy that responds. Can you see, can you feel the difference? The ego, the mind, reacts. The soul, the essence, responds. And the ego always fights. The ego only believes in fight and doesn't want to surrender, because the ego always wants to have the last word. The ego wants to appear to be more, wants to say what is. The essence wants to observe, wants to evolve, wants to learn, it's curious, wants to experience. And between the infinite range of experiences, surrendering, it's one of the most powerful one that we can allow ourselves to have. Because it's only when we surrender to something, then we can then see that there was truly nothing to be afraid of, to be scared of. But it's only when we surrender that we feel that. Otherwise, we are in our stories, in our fears, and we feel, no, 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 no. But when we let it go, and we go, okay, come to me, okay, I'm yours. then we realized that, yeah, it may have not been pleasant, but it wasn't as scary and fearful and tragic as we thought it was. Mariella says, for me, the consciousness that I have, not the power to change people, don't want to change, or change situations I prefer to evitate, the one who which is white never becomes black and vice versa. Okay? Yes, yes, exactly. There's certain things, there's certain people we can't change. And you remind me of the serenity prayer that says, God, grant me the serenity to accept what I cannot change, the courage to change what I can change, and the wisdom to know the two. Meaning the wisdom to understand if there's something I cannot change, so I would just totally surrender to it. Or give me the wisdom to understand that it's something that I can change, so I can do something about it. So then give me the power, the courage to change it. Yes. And we are always, I think, in that. There's a fine line. Because even if we live in a state of surrendering, it doesn't mean that we don't do anything anymore. It just means that we do and we change what we can. And we let be. Hello, Roberto. And we let be, and we accept, and we become at peace with what we can't change. Because there will always be things in life or people in life, like you wrote, Mariella, that we can't change. And most of the times, we suffer when we don't surrender to the fact that these people are not going to change until and unless we honor them as they are, we see them for who they are, we're not going to be at peace. Most of our unhappiness is in wishing that others and life was different, but it's impossible. Mariella, I feel you understand my personal approach to life. I think from what you wrote, I think I can understand, because what you write seems to be quite clear. Like you know, you have thought through these things. You know where you stand in regard to this. Yeah. And if that's if your personal approach is this one, it's a very, I would say, wise. It's a very wise one, because when we are able to surrender to what we can't change, there we go. Peace arrives. But we can't have peace if we don't accept what is. And this is simply what every person that lives peacefully, regardless to what's happening to him or her, does. That's it. They surrender. They say yes. Yes to things when other people say, no, it shouldn't be that way. The thing is that it is. If it's raining, it's raining. What good would come from saying it shouldn't be raining? It's raining. Say, yes, today it's raining. I'm at peace with the rain. Thank you, everybody. Our time is up. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Mariella, for participating. Thank you, everybody else. And we are going to see each other next Thursday again at 5 p.m. Ciao. I wish you a good evening.